I'm Robert Lomas, and this is the 16th of 17 episodes of a work called 10 Nights in the Black Lion, which was written by the novelist Daniel Owen in 1859. It was originally written as a serial in a magazine called Charles of Bala, which had been produced by his friend Nathaniel Jones, but was now edited by John Davis. This 16th episode was published on December the 1st, 1859. Episode 16. The Ninth Evening. Neither Slade nor his son were to be seen at the breakfast table the following morning, but there were a few morning imbibers in the bar first thing. They looked like men of rotten constitution and murky faces who couldn't face a day's work without a hot toddy. They came in slowly, asked for what they wanted in quietly subdued voices, drank their liquor, and left. About 9 o'clock the publican made his appearance. He didn't take breakfast, but went straight to the bar. He rushed to the brandy jar, poured himself half a pint of the fiery fluid, and drank it down in one. I noticed how his hand trembled, and how eager his gaze was as he lifted the glass to his mouth. There was such a harsh difference between the miller of 10 years ago and the innkeeper of today. Who would have thought that he was the same person? As Slade was turning from the bar, a man entered. I saw Slade's expression take on a look of concern. The man took a letter from his bag and handed it to him. Slade's face turned pale as he opened it and read the contents. The man watched quietly. Slade was upset, and looked at the man, seemingly lost for words. He tried to speak, but couldn't. It was as if he swallowed every word that came to his mouth. I later found out that the man was a bailiff of the court. He gave Slade a final, sober and official look, nodded formally to him, and then left. Slade went back to the bar. "Trouble, trouble," said the innkeeper. His voice was low, yet loud enough for me to hear. It was almost as if he wanted me to ask him about his problem. However, I thought that wouldn't be the right thing to do. "The bailiff has finally got his own back," I heard Will, the servant, who was tending the bar, say. "What's the matter, Will?" asked a man who was leaning on the bar. "Who's Jenkins the bailiff after now?" "He's after the old man," Will said, in a voice that seemed to take pleasure in imparting the news. "Surely not." "Yes, it's the absolute truth," said Will, with a half-smile. "What's to pay?" said the man. "I don't know, and I don't care. He's lost his litigation against Judge Lyman." "Has he?" "Yes, and I heard the judge swear that if anyone ever came into his clutches, he'd sue them for everything they owned. And the judge is a man of his word on these matters." While the man was sipping his whisky, Will used all his energy to elaborate on the extent of the trouble that was about to fall on the head of the old man, as he called Slade. The customer was hanging on to every word of this elaborate saga of woe. It seemed that this drinker had been cheated by Lyman for a long time. When he had objected to the fraud, Lyman had used old Slade to enforce his will, but the tide had run against Slade when he had had to borrow a big amount from the judge, and now the judge had turned on his former collaborator. Later that morning I went for a walk around Cedarville and reflected on how the town had changed. I couldn't help noticing the silence, stagnation, and general decay that had taken over the place. I came to Mr. Harrison's house. He was the man who about 2 years earlier had understood the danger posed by the free sale of intoxicating liquor. I was in no doubt that he had suffered from its influence. As I was looking at the house, I saw a tall lady come out. She had a sad, intense look on her face. I recognized Mrs. Harrison. "Ah," I said to myself, "how many dear hopes that once filled her heart are now scattered to the wind." I had heard that both her sons had fallen prey to their drunken lusts. Such an unhappy mother, I thought. I continued my stroll through the village, seeing signs of disrepair in many other houses. In every case it seemed their owners had neglected them and let them fall into decay. When I inquired who owned them, I found these neglected houses were all occupied by regular customers at the Black Lion. 10 years ago, Judge Hammond had been the richest man in the village. Now, looking at the bare walls of his dwelling, I could see the old home of Hammond and his fathers had completely fallen away. No life was visible. The door was closed, the windows barred, and there was no smoke rising from the chimney. In my imagination I restored the life, beauty, and happiness which had characterized that home a few years ago. The mother with her hopeful boy, looking confidently into the future. The father proud of his family treasures, but not prudent. How he must regret that he had opened his door to let predatory wolves enter his world. But he had, and it had brought about this dreadful change. Now I saw a selfish and compulsive old judge in his decaying house, haunted by the shades of his murdered son and his wife, fallen from madness into the grave. And all I said to myself, because one man was too lazy to pursue an honest occupation, and was allowed to sell intoxicating spirits. In the evening I returned to the Black Lion. Slade and his son were at the bar. They were both half drunk, and there were 5 or 6 other aggressive customers in the same state. The circumstances of Slade's situation were being widely discussed, with general opinion saying that a large part of the blame should be laid at Frank's door. It was 9 o'clock, and some of the company were leaving when I saw Frank Slade getting up for a 3rd or 4th time to go behind the bar for more brandy. As he reached for the bottle, his father went to him and grabbed his arm. "Let go of me," said the young man furiously. "No, you leave that bottle alone. You're drunk already." "Don't mess with me, old man. I'm not in the mood to take advice from you." "You're a blind drunk and acting like a fool," said the old man, as he tried to pull the bottle out of Frank's grip. "Drop it." The boy was now so angry that he struck the old man about the head with his fist with great force. His father fell to the floor. Slade was so angry that he got up and rushed madly at his son, and tried to choke him. "Stay away," Frank said. "Stay away." He grabbed the brandy bottle again, but his father was too far gone in drunken madness to be afraid, and he punched his son in the face. The young man, exasperated by excess drink and evil feelings, threw the bottle directly at his father's head, and he hit his target. Down went the old man, with blood pouring from his head, and broken pieces of the bottle sunk deep into his skull. I rushed over to him and tried to lift him up. He was making the most terrifying cries, which struck fear into the heart of everyone watching. A look of expiration fell across his face, and I could hear death's rattle in his throat. Within 3 minutes of the blow being struck, his spirit had been called to account for the actions of his earthly body. A cry went up. "Frank Slade, you've murdered your father!" Being adrift in a drunken rage, the young man took a while to understand the import of these words. When he eventually realized just what he had done, he uttered a terrible cry which echoed through the house. Within the half-hour, Frank was a lonely prisoner in the local jail. Do you, my reader, need any more explanation of these terrible circumstances? I don't think so, and so I won't offer any. That's the end of the 16th episode of 10 Nights in the Black Lion, written by Daniel Owen. It was first published in the magazine Charles Bala on December the 1st, 1859. This episode was not signed. I'm Robert Lomas, and I've spent the last year translating this. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then please click the subscribe box in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen.